I observed our vibrant love turn into a stark transaction when my partner began measuring affection with gifts, eventually costing our relationship but buying my freedom. Have you ever had that feeling? That slow creeping dread when you realize something beautiful is turning into something ugly, when a relationship that started with laughter and late night talks starts to feel transactional, like you're no longer a partner but a provider, not a boyfriend but a walking, talking ATM. I'm Alexander Bennett. I'm 25 years old, and I had to learn that lesson the hard way. It's a lesson that cost me my relationship, but in the end, it bought me my freedom. And the story of how it happened? Well, it all started with an apple. Layla Ross, she's 24. When I first met her, she was everything. She had this laugh that could just light up a room, this way of looking at you that made you feel like you were the only person in the world. Our first few months were a blur of inside jokes, cheap pizza on a Tuesday night that felt like a five-star meal, and long drives with the windows down, singing off-key to the radio. We were building a life or so, I thought. I'm the kind of guy who believes in effort. I believe that love isn't about the price tag on a gift. It's about the thought behind it. It's remembering their favorite coffee order, or that stupid story they told you once that made them cry with laughter. That's the currency of love as far as I was concerned. But somewhere along the line, the exchange rate started to change. It was subtle at first, so subtle I barely noticed. It began with comments, little offhand remarks that seemed innocent enough. We'd be walking past a jewelry store and she'd press her face against the glass. "Oh, look at that necklace," she'd sigh. "Isn't it beautiful? Jessica's boyfriend just got her one that looks almost exactly like it. He must be so in love with her." I'd laugh it off, squeeze her hand, and say something like, "Well, he doesn't have you, so who's the real winner?" And she'd smile, but it wouldn't quite reach her eyes. It was the first time I felt judged, like my affection was being measured against someone else's bank account. Then the hints became less like hints and more like suggestions. Our anniversary was coming up, and I spent weeks planning the perfect gift. I'm not a great artist, but I'm patient. I put together this incredibly detailed scrapbook of our first year together. I printed out dozens of photos, ticket stubs from movies, a dried flower from a walk we took. I wrote out little captions for every memory, pouring my heart onto every page. I thought it was the most romantic thing I'd ever done. On the night of our anniversary, I gave it to her after a nice dinner I'd cooked myself. She opened it, and I watched her face, expecting to see tears of joy, or at least a big genuine smile. Instead, she flipped through the pages slowly, a polite, thin-lipped smile on her face. "Oh," she said, her voice flat. "This is creative, Alex." She closed it and set it on the coffee table as if it were a coaster. "It's sweet. You know," she said, swirling the wine in her glass, "I was on Instagram earlier and I saw that influencer I like, her boyfriend, surprised her with a weekend trip to a vineyard for their anniversary. Just so spontaneous and romantic." The scrapbook sat on the table between us, feeling less like a gift and more like an accusation. It was a testament to my effort, my time, my love, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't shiny enough. It wasn't expensive enough. That night I went to bed feeling a cold knot in my stomach. For the first time I felt like my love was being graded and I'd just received a failing mark. The pressure started to build from there. Every conversation seemed to circle back to money, to things we didn't have, to things I hadn't provided. Her friends became a constant point of comparison. Brianna's boyfriend just got a promotion. They're looking at new apartments downtown. Or Chloe's fiancé surprised her with a new car. Can you even imagine? Each story was a little dagger, a reminder of my inadequacy in her eyes. It was no longer about us. It was about keeping up with them. Our quiet nights in with pizza were replaced by her wanting to go to fancy restaurants I couldn't really afford, where she'd spend most of the night taking pictures of her food for social media. The price of the meal seemed more important than the conversation we were having over it. I tried to talk to her about it. I sat her down one evening and tried to explain how I was feeling. "Layla, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on me to spend money. I love you for you, not for what you have, and I always hoped you felt the same way about me." She just looked at me, a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. Then she scoffed. "Oh, don't be so dramatic, Alex. It's not about the money, it's about the effort. It's about wanting to be treated well. Don't you think I deserve to be spoiled sometimes? Don't you want to show me how much you love me?" And there it was, the word that changed everything: show. Love was no longer something to be felt. It was something to be shown, to be displayed. And the only way to display it in her world was with a receipt. My scrapbook wasn't a display. My home-cooked meals weren't a display. They were quiet acts of love, and she was demanding a billboard. The final few months were strained. The easy laughter was gone, replaced by a tense silence that was only broken by her sighs of disappointment or her not-so-subtle hints about the next big thing she wanted. Her affection became a reward system. If I took her on a shopping trip and bought her that dress she wanted, she'd be sweet and loving for a day or two. If I suggested we save money and go for a hike instead, she'd become cold and distant, answering me in one-word sentences and scrolling through her phone, pointedly liking photos of her friends on lavish vacations. I felt like I was losing my mind. I loved this woman, or at least I loved the memory of the woman she used to be. I kept hoping I'd see a glimpse of that girl again, the one who thought a shared slice of pizza was the peak of romance. But that girl was gone. In her place was a stranger who looked at me not with love, but with expectation. An expectation I was constantly failing to meet. I was working a steady job trying to build a future. But my future was about a down payment on a house, not a designer handbag. Our visions for our lives were diverging so sharply it felt like we were standing on two separate continents. My love was unconditional, but hers had developed terms and conditions. Our relationship had become a contract where the clauses kept getting more expensive, and I was constantly in breach. I was exhausted and emotionally drained, feeling less like a boyfriend and more like an employee about to be fired. I knew something had to give. I just had no idea the breaking point would be so spectacular, or that Layla herself would be the one to give me the final push. The breaking point arrived on a Tuesday night, exactly 48 hours before my life would change forever. It didn't come with a dramatic, movie-style fight. There was no shouting, no slammed doors. It came quietly wrapped in the cold blue light of her phone screen. We were on the sofa, the TV playing some show neither of us was watching. I was trying to enjoy a moment of peace after a long day, but the silence in the room was heavier than a winter coat. Layla hadn't said more than 10 words to me since I'd gotten home. She was just scrolling her thumb, moving with a repetitive, almost angry rhythm. I tried to bridge the gap. Tough day at work, I asked, my voice sounding unnaturally loud in the quiet. She didn't even look up. It was fine. Tap, scroll, tap, scroll. Anything interesting happening online? I tried again, gesturing vaguely at her phone. This time she stopped. She locked her phone and placed it face down on the cushion between us, a gesture that felt more like drawing a weapon than putting one away. She turned to face me, but her eyes were flat, her expression unreadable. For a second, I thought maybe we were finally going to have a real conversation, that she'd seen the exhaustion on my face and was going to talk to me about what was really wrong. The new iPhone was announced today. She said, her tone completely level, as if she were reporting the weather. I nodded slowly. Oh yeah, cool. Any new features, or is it just the same thing in a different box? I was trying to be light to show some interest. It has a cinematic camera, 3 lenses. The processor is the fastest ever. And the new Sierra blue color is gorgeous. She recited the specs like she was reading from a press release. There was no excitement in her voice, just information. Sounds impressive, I said, not really knowing what else to say. Then she looked me dead in the eye and the casual, informative tone vanished, replaced by a chillingly calm resolve. I want one, she stated. It wasn't a wish or a hint, it was a declaration. I felt a familiar weariness wash over me. Layla, my phone is working just fine. And yours is only a year old. It's practically new. She let out a short, sharp sigh, the kind designed to make me feel small and stupid. I'm not talking about your phone, Alex. I'm talking about my asterisk phone. Brianna's boyfriend already pre-ordered one for her. Chloe's fiance is getting her one on launch day. That's great for them, I said, my patience starting to fray. But we're not them. We're trying to save money. Remember, we talked about this. A new phone isn't exactly a necessity right now. Her eyes narrowed. A necessity. It's a statement. It's about not looking like you're falling behind. It's about feeling like your partner actually cares enough to give you something nice, something that everyone else is getting. The air crackled with tension. In that moment, I realized that for her, love wasn't about support or partnership. It was about status and appearances. It was a competition, and I was losing badly. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. Layla, I show you I care in 100 other ways. I cook for you. I listen to you. I support your goals. Isn't that more important than a piece of technology? She actually laughed, a bitter, humorless sound that made my stomach clench. Oh, Alex, that's so sweet. And so naive. Cooking dinner is nice. It's cute. But it doesn't show ambition. It doesn't show that you're willing to go the extra mile to make me happy. It's the bare minimum. The bare minimum. All those nights I'd spent making her favorite meals, all those times I dropped everything to help her with a project, all of it, reduced to the bare minimum. A cold anger began to replace the exhaustion. And what exactly is the extra mile? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. She picked up her phone again, unlocked it, and tapped the screen a few times before turning it towards me. It was the Apple Store page. A beautiful, sleek phone in Sierra blue gleamed on the screen, and below it, the price. $1, 199 inches. I said, the number tasting like ash in my mouth. Layla, that's an insane amount of money for a phone. That's more than a month's rent for some people. It's half of my emergency fund. She didn't flinch. She just looked at me with that same cold appraising stare, as if she were calculating my worth and finding it insufficient. It's the price of making me happy, she said simply. It's the price of showing me that you're serious about this relationship, that you see a future with me and that you're willing to invest in it. I stared at her, dumbfounded. Invest in it? By buying you a phone, how does that make any sense? An investment is putting a down payment on a house or saving for retirement. Not this. You just don't get it, she said, shaking her head with a look of profound disappointment. This isn't about the phone, Alex. It's about the principle. It's a test. A test. My blood ran cold. Our entire relationship, our history, our shared memories, all of it had been leading up to a final exam, and the subject was materialism. I felt something inside me snap. The part that had been desperately trying to hold on, making excuses for her remembering the girl I fell in love with. It just broke. I saw her with perfect, horrifying clarity. This wasn't a phase. This was who she was. So let me get this straight, I said, my voice now as cold as hers. You're telling me that if I don't buy you this $1,199 phone, what happens? She leaned back, a faint, triumphant smile playing on her lips. She thought she had me. She thought I would fold just like I always had. If you don't buy me the phone, she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper, then it's clear you don't value me or this relationship, and I can't be with someone who doesn't value me. So yes, you buy me the phone, or we're done. There it was, the ultimatum. My love, my loyalty, my future, all held hostage for $1, 199. I didn't say anything. I just stared at the woman I thought I was going to spend my life with and felt nothing. The love, the hurt, the confusion, it all just evaporated, replaced by a strange, hollow calm. It was the kind of calm you feel after a storm has passed, when you can finally see the wreckage clearly. She took my silence as consideration. You have until launch day to decide, she added, as if granting me a generous extension. That's about 48 hours. I think that's more than fair. Then she stood, picked up her phone, and walked into the bedroom without another word, closing the door softly behind her. The click of the latch echoed in the silent apartment like a gunshot. I sat on that sofa for hours, the TV muttering to itself while her words echoed in my head. It's a test. Buy me the phone or we're done. I slept on the couch that night and the next. We existed in a state of quiet agony. Layla moved through the apartment like a ghost, a silent, judging presence. She was letting the ultimatum do her work for her, confident my fear of losing her was greater than my self-respect. For a long time, she would have been right, but she had pushed too far. She had shown me the price tag on her affection, and in doing so revealed its true value, nothing. My mind drifted back through our history, our first date in the park with cheap ice cream, the night she cried on my shoulder after a bad day, the scrapbook I'd made for her, filled with ticket stubs and silly photos. Where did that person go, or had she ever really existed? I wasn't wrestling with whether to buy the phone. That was never an option. I was mourning the death of our relationship, saying goodbye to the woman I thought I loved. The grief was a physical weight for the first day, but then the anger began to burn it away. It was a slow, clarifying fire. She hadn't just asked for a phone. She had tried to purchase my compliance. She'd put our entire history on an auction block with a starting bid of $1, 199, believing my love and dignity were commodities she could afford. By the morning of the second day, the grief was gone, replaced by something hard and clear resolve. She wanted a transaction, fine. She would get one. She wanted a grand gesture that showed exactly how I felt about her demand. I would give her that too. She had set the terms of her own test, never imagining I'd be the one to deliver the final score. The deadline was approaching. T-minus 5 hours. My heart wasn't pounding. My hands weren't shaking. There was just a profound, almost surgical calm. I got up from the couch, put on my shoes, and grabbed my wallet and car keys. Layla didn't emerge from the bedroom. She was probably tracking my movements, listening for the sound of me getting ready to go to the mall to the Apple store. She was probably feeling that little thrill of victory, assuming her silence and pressure had worked their magic one last time. I walked to my bank, not the ATM, but inside to a human teller. I wanted this to be a formal, deliberate act. I slid my debit card and a withdrawal slip across the counter. The amount I wrote down was precise $1,199. The teller, a kind-faced woman who had helped me set up this very savings account years ago, looked at the slip and then at me. "Big purchase today, Alexander?" she asked with a polite smile. I thought about what this money was for. I had started this account for a future, a down payment on a house, an engagement ring, a safety net for a life I had once imagined sharing with Layla. Every dollar was a piece of my discipline, a testament to my hopes. And now I was using it to buy my freedom. Something like that, I replied, my own smile feeling genuine for the first time in days. An investment in my future. She counted out the bills crisp and clean, 11 $100 bills and the rest in smaller denominations, all bundled neatly. As she pushed the stack of cash toward me, I felt its weight. It wasn't just paper. It was the physical manifestation of her ultimatum. This was the price of her love. Holding it in my hand, I realized how cheap it really was. But I didn't drive to the mall. I drove to the local grocery store. The automatic doors slid open and I was hit with the smell of fresh bread and roasted chicken, the sound of shopping carts rattling and children laughing. It was a world away from the cold, sterile aesthetic of an Apple store. This place was real. It was messy. It was alive. I walked past the electronics aisle and made a beeline for the produce section. The bright fluorescent lights gleamed off pyramids of oranges, stacks of green pears, and baskets of yellow bananas. And there they were, a mountain of shiny, deep red apples. I picked one up. It was cool and solid in my palm. Perfect. No bruises, no blemishes. It was a simple, beautiful thing that asked for nothing but to be enjoyed. It cost maybe $1. The contrast was so staggering it was almost funny. On one hand, a $1.199 piece of technology designed to be obsolete in a year, a symbol of status. On the other, this, an apple. Simple, timeless, real. I paid for my single apple and walked back to my car. I sat for a moment in the driver's seat, the silence a welcome comfort. The final piece was ready, T-4 hours. I looked at the apple, its skin perfect and unblemished. Too perfect. It didn't reflect the truth of us. So I lifted it to my mouth, and I took one single deliberate bite. The crunch was loud, explosive in the quiet car. The sweet, sharp taste of the fruit filled my mouth. It was the first taste of liberation. Now it was perfect. A half-eaten apple. My answer. T-3 hours. I walked into our apartment. The air was thick with tension and unspoken expectation. Layla was sitting on the couch pretending to scroll through her old phone, but I could see the anticipation in her eyes. She looked up as I entered, her expression carefully neutral, but a small, smug smile was fighting to break free. She thought she'd won. I walked over and stood in front of her. I didn't say a word. I just held out my hand. In my palm rested the red apple, the white flesh of the single bite mark stark against the crimson skin. Her eyes flickered from my face down to my hand and then back up. The smugness vanished, replaced by pure, unadulterated confusion. "What is this?" she asked, her voice tight. "It's for you," I said calmly. "It's a gift." She stared at the apple as if it were a venomous snake. "This is a joke, right? Where's the box, Alexander?" "There is no box," I said, my voice even. "You gave me an ultimatum. You said I had to buy you an apple to prove I valued our relationship. So I did. Here it is." I watched the confusion on her face curdle into dawning horror, then ignite into pure, unbridled rage. The realization of what the single bite meant, the rejection, the mockery of her demand, hit her like a physical blow. "You think you're so clever," she hissed, her face flushing a dark, ugly red as she shot to her feet. "You're throwing everything away for what? To make a stupid point over a phone." That's when I finally let her see the coldness in my eyes. "No, Layla," I said, my voice dropping low. "You're the one who threw everything away. You took our love, our history, our future, and you put a price tag on it. You held it hostage for $1.199. I'm not throwing it away. I'm just refusing to pay the ransom." She looked like she was going to scream. Her hands were clenched into fists at her sides. But I didn't give her the chance. I placed the half-eaten apple gently on the coffee table in front of her. "This is yours," I said. It's all you're getting from me." Then I turned and walked out of the apartment. I didn't look back. I closed the door behind me, hearing the beginning of a frustrated scream just as the latch clicked shut. I went down to my car. T minus 2 hours and 59 minutes. I pulled out my phone, the one I had paid for. My fingers moved with a steady calm. First, her contact, block. A pop-up asked me to confirm. I pressed it without hesitation. Then I opened every social media app we shared. One by one, I found her profile and hit the block button. Block, block, block. Each tap was a door slamming shut. It was a digital exorcism, cleansing my life of her influence and taking away her power to have the last word. The ultimatum was void. The relationship was terminated by me on my terms. Which brings me to now. T equals 0. I'm lying on a padded table in a quiet, softly lit room. The air smells of eucalyptus and lavender. Gentle instrumental music is playing in the background. A moment ago, a masseuse finished a 90-minute deep tissue massage that worked out knots in my shoulders I didn't even know I had. The $1,199 is gone. I took the exact sum that was meant to be the price of my submission and transformed it into an act of self-care. I bought the most luxurious spa package they offered. Massage, sauna, a healthy lunch, the works. I'm investing in my own peace using the money she demanded to heal from the damage she caused. As I lie here feeling the tension drain out of my body, I feel nothing but a profound sense of quiet. She wanted me to prove my value to her. Instead, I proved it to myself. My peace of mind, my dignity, my self-respect. They're priceless. She can keep the half-eaten apple. I have my future back and no one will ever put a price on it again.